In fact, I have a funny Tal story that features Yasser Seirawan. So I have to tell this one.
Please do.
So this was the New York Open. It was 1990 New York Open. Gata Kamsky's 15 years old. 1990. I think that's right. 89 or 90. Gata Kamsky's 15 years old. And he's about to defect from the Soviet Union, which was like about to be Russia, like right around that time, right? So he's on stage playing against Mikhail Tal, my hero. I'm like, Tal is in New York playing chess. It's a couple years before Tal actually dies.
Yep.
And they're on stage, and I'm rooting hard for Tal. Kamsky has white. And I'm looking at the position, they get to this position, and I see that Kamsky can sack a knight, then sack a queen. Tal has to refuse the queen, in which case Kamsky can sack the queen again, and now Tal's getting killed. And I'm staring at this, I'm like, what? And it starts with knight b6 on the queen side before playing queen g3 on the king side, and it ends up being mate. Queen g3, and then after this combo, queen f2. Computers show it right now as like trivial. But I'm staring at the board, I'm like, wait, what? He can play knight. Because the whole idea is there's a rook h8, rook h7 mate, and the queen is on e5, and it can take, on this diagonal, it can take the rooks, which is what Kamsky actually did in the game, was to play rook h8 and trade off the queens, and he had a much better position. He went on to win. But the better win was play knight b6 to deflect the knight on d7, and then play queen g3 to deflect the queen, and then the mate's unstoppable. You're just going to fall apart. So I see the idea, and I'm like, what the heck? And again, I'm not an IM. Lowly, good, decent player. And I look over, and Yasser Seirawan, lo and behold, is reading a magazine in the audience. He's finished his game, and he's like chilling, reading. So I go over to him. Excuse me, Grandmaster. Can't Kamsky play knight b6? And Yasser's like, but he knows me, right? Because I told him something earlier. And he goes, I take it. And I go, queen g3. And now he's like, oh,
He starts
this clown
calculating.
has an idea, right? So he tries to get out of it with this tempo move to take on b3 with check and then play queen d4. And then I go queen f2. And now I'm like, this is a genius idea. This is brilliant. This is fantastic. What does Yasser do? He goes, oh yeah, it looks good. And goes back to reading his magazine. What the heck? No acknowledgement, no love. I just sacked a knight and a queen twice.
Yeah.
So and he's as cool as ever, just reading his magazine. He doesn't even like, go now, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I go outside, and Jay Bowden is there. Now, Jay Bowden, IM, Iron Man, he's played chess all the time. A New Yorker, used to crush me. That's one of the guys that's trial by fire that I had to play.
Tough guy. Yeah.
And I see Jay, and I say, Jay, I see something. And he's like, what? I see how Kamsky can beat Tal. Show me. I put it down, and Larry Christensen, Big Lar, GM, who was one of Yasser's competitors back in the day, happened to walk by, and he knows Jay, and he's like, what's going on? And he goes, Maurice has a move that Kamsky can play. And this is pre-computers, right? So it's not like we can check it with the engine to make sure it's good. So I showed them knight b6, and they're like, what? And then I showed them the sack with the queen, and they're like, yeah, this is this is going to cook him. Right at that moment, Yasser walks out of the room, of the playing hall, and he's got his magazine under his arm. He walks straight up to us, and he goes, yeah, I can't figure out what to do about that move. So the whole time he was actually thinking about it, but he didn't want to give me any love. So Kamsky doesn't play the move. We go, the game continues. Kamsky wins like 20 moves later instead of winning on the spot. It would have been a beautiful miniature. Kamsky comes out with Tal, and Kamsky's on air. He's 15 years old. He's just beaten Tal. They go to do the post-mortem, and his father, Rustam, who was like a heavy-handed dad, tells him, we got to go. And Kamsky's, what? Like, in Russian, but it's like, we going, or else I'm going to beat your ass. Like, let's go. And Kamsky's like this, like, wow. And then he just gets up, and he has to leave Tal sitting there. Now, there's a giant crowd around. Like everybody wants to see this post-mortem, including me, who I want to tell them knight b6. It's Tal. It's like I'm going to get to tell Tal that somebody could have played knight b6 on him. It's like the opposite of what I would have liked, but still. Yeah. Kamsky leaves and we're all disappointed. It's like this was going to be the movies, man, to watch this post-mortem. We're about to walk away and in walks Grandmaster Anatoly Lane, who used to be Tal's compatriot back in the 50s and 60s, and had now been living in New Jersey but playing chess in New York. Mm-hmm. He walks in just at the right moment, the perfect time. The crowd's about to leave, in walks Lane. And Lane looks at Tal, and he's like, oh, like, what's up? However they say it, right? And then Tal says, he shrugs his shoulders,
I lost.
like, what, I lost, and like, where's Gada? And Gada is not around. So Lane goes, want to show me the game? Okay. And they got to sit back down, and the crowd's like, yes! So we all come back. Okay, we're going to sit and watch. So we're all now watching. Meantime, my heart's beating out my chest because I'm waiting for one moment. I got one moment. So they go, and they're analyzing. I'm like, hurry up, get to the position. Hurry up, get to the position. Finally, they get to the position. And I know Lane, and he knows me from the Manhattan Chess Club. So I go, Grandmaster Lane, knight b6. Looks, he notices, okay, it's Maurice. He's a decent player. He's not going to say garbage. He goes, yeah. And when he says take, and I go, queen g3. And he goes, and he looks at Tal, and he puts it on the board. And they start analyzing. And they start breaking down variations I didn't even look at, other lines trying to get out of the situation. They go all the way down. They realize it's winning. Lane looks at me, gives the nod. Tal has no clue who said knight b6. They keep analyzing. They finish. They leave. I don't get to say hello to Tal. I don't get an autograph. I don't get a handshake. I get nothing. I'm like, what? And that was my sad end to the Tal story. Later, Kamsky, in The Informant, annotates the game. And what does he say about in the annotation? He puts knight b6, double exclam, no explanation.
Just that.
Just the move. Knight b6. And he wasn't there when I said it, so he must have discovered it later.
He discovered it, yeah.
And I saw it, I was like, that's my move. That's my move. Chess sometimes.
Did you meet Tal afterwards?
No,
or
never.
That was the last time.
Never, because then he passed away. That was his tournament, then he passed away.
He was very sick at that point in his life.
Yes, he was starting to get sick.
Wow. Kamsky was an interesting story. He was like top 3 in the world. He leaves chess completely, comes back 10 years later, or
about 6 years later,
something like that, and becomes a top player again.
Yep.
You'd think after leaving for so many years, and he came back, he wasn't good anymore. He was so rusty.
Yeah.
And then he was like, he nearly played a world championship match. He plays Topalov. This was like one of the most amazing redemption stories I've.
Absolutely, it took him about 6 months, and I would be at the Manhattan, the Marshall Chess Club. He would play all the time, all the time, and he just kept doing it until the field came back, and then he was just a straight monster.